About what's going on in Washington, D.C. You know, I come home, as someone said earlier, nice that I was on vacation, and I appreciate all of you being on vacation with me as we discuss what's going on and what's happening in Washington, D.C. I also am going to go over a bunch of pieces of legislation that you may or may not be aware of. If you get my newsletter, and you can get my newsletter, all you have to do is go to adams.house.gov or sign up here tonight. You may have already seen some of these bills and the information out there. And then we're going to go and answer questions if you have any, and I'm sure you do, as one young lady here was asking. Is everybody game? Yes. All right. Let's get started. We'll do slides first, then we're going to go over a few things. A lot of bills that have been passed, although I've heard that we haven't really been working, but I want to let you know on the House side, there's been a lot of bills that have passed. Okay? So we're going to go through the slides real quickly. And these videos are a little far away, but basically the top line is what the CBO projected. The little red line that's squiggly, that is what the current path will be according to what happened just before we came home. Here you go. Non-defense discretionary spending, defense discretionary spending. That's where that is.
I can't see that very well.
We can't read it. Dim the light.
692 for defense, 666 for the non-defense discretionary. That is, you know, so your defense is the green. That green piece of pie.
It's unbelievable that our defense is that high.
Okay? It means that that's where all the funding is for our defense, as opposed to the rest of the complete budget of the federal government.
Does that include the 700 bases we have around the world?
Yes, ma'am.
It does. That's every single penny that goes into defense.
Yes, ma'am. It's defense.
I don't believe that.
Okay. So,
No, but I know that's not right.
there's 900 bases?
There's actually 900 bases.
Okay. Well, I will tell you,
It includes the wars, right? Please tell me.
my understanding that it does, and it also includes Libya. Whether you call it a war or humanitarian, but the money has been moved around to cover the Libya issues within that budget. Because I asked the question because, as you know, I voted against the actions in Libya.
I'm sure you did. I'm sure 40 years ago you did.
No, I would have done it again. Because, as the generals and everyone else said, they had not attacked us. There was not an American interest at stake. So, there was an issue. All right, let's go. Budget Control Act. While it wasn't perfect, it is a step in the right direction. I'm not here to tell you it was a perfect bill. I think we had a better bill when we passed one in April. Let's start from April. In April, we passed a budget. A lot of people heard about it because it was characterized as being something that it wasn't. There were a lot of things said about that bill. How many of you in this room knew there were tax reforms in that budget proposal? Raise your hands. Few of you.
The committee had to talk about that.
No, this is the budget bill when passed in April.
Can I ask you, you say this,
Well,
you say we passed.
yes, the House passed the budget bill. It's sent to the Senate.
I know,
The Senate
that's
can
what
pass
we passed means the House.
The House, yes, sir.
Nothing to do with the Senate.
No, it has nothing to do with the Senate. When I will tell you what happens with the Senate when we pass them, okay?
So, just say House passed.
All
Don't
right.
say we.
All right. The House passed, which I'm part of.
Were in that bill.
I'm sorry, ma'am?
What reforms were in that bill?
There were a lot of reforms. And you're
Tax
right.
reforms, you said.
Oh, okay. Well, let me find that one little piece of paper that I had, because basically the AMT patch estate tax, it extended that. It sets the top individual corporate tax rate as 25%. It also scaled back and eliminates entirely the deductions and credits that have been skewed by corporate behavior and benefited the largest corporations disproportionately. So you know all that stuff you hear about the corporate jets? We were looking at in this budget. So, it was passed and it went to the Senate. And when it had landed in the Senate, what did Standard & Poor's say? Now we're talking, this was in April. On April 18th, I believe we passed the budget April 15th, and there might be a slide that says the date. Standard & Poor's announced that it was lowering its outlook for America's long-term credit rating from negative to stable, rating to negative from stable. The agency issued a strong warning to government leaders to agree on how to address the medium and long-term budget challenges by 2013. In its statement, in its announcement, S&P stated that the House-passed budget is a starting point, which I quote, which could result in substantial and lasting U.S. government fiscal consolidation. What happened to the bill? It's still in the Senate. It has not been brought up for discussion, it has not been debated, and it has not had a hearing that, to my knowledge. Now, let's talk about what happens when you pass a bill.
Was that budget also called the Paul Ryan budget?
Yes.
It was called the House budget, but it was identified as Paul Ryan's. Yes, ma'am.
Because it was going to, make Social Security a voucher system.
No, ma'am.
But Medicare.
That's the budget system.
Medicare
That's the
vouchers.
budget
All right,
system.
wait.
Medicare.
Now, we asked that everybody raise your hand, ask the question, and everyone else be respectful and listen. And I will tell you that that budget proposal had no changes to Social Security. Now, I heard it did, and I can bring you the bill and you can read it, and when you find it, you let me know, because it did not.
Because I saw you make a presentation
Yeah.
in Newsom Beach.
Medicare.
To Medicare.
Medicare.
Well, Medicare then.
Yes.
And I saw you speak very glowingly of that
Yes.
Paul Ryan plan.
She did.
Well, you're right, because I believe it would have put us on the fiscal path that we needed to be on. Now, let me say something. Here's how the process is supposed to work, if it's working for you, the American people, okay? One chamber passes a bill, it goes to the other chamber. The other chamber, if they disagree with that bill, they disagree with that language, they have the opportunity to amend that language and send it back, or create their own bill and send it over. But in order for the process to work, both chambers have to do that. So, we passed our budget bill. The Senate passed nothing. It's been over 850 days since the Senate has passed a budget bill. So, there was a lot of politicizing of that piece of legislation. And when I came home, I gave you the facts. There were some changes, some reforms to Medicare. And there were reasons for those. One of which is that the Medicare trustees are telling us that the system will soon be unable to pay out the benefits, full benefits. So, what we required in that bill was to protect the current seniors today and reform the system so that those of you earlier, younger men and women paying into that system will have that when you get there. There will be something when you get there. And it would give you like the same type of insurance coverage that a member of Congress and a federal employee would have. That's what it was proposed. But again, that bill never came up in the Senate. So then we moved into July, and cut, cap, and balance was passed. I will get to you as soon as we get through the slides. Please write your questions down, and we'll go from there.
I thought this was a
So then-
listening tour. This is not a listening tour. This is a lecture with PowerPoints.
We
Sir?
read the newsletter you gave us in response to our email.
What did we agree to when we first started? And every one of the other town halls, people were respectful of each other. In every one of the town halls, I went through the process, then everyone had an opportunity to ask questions. And I will tell you that I will answer your questions, because I believe in having the facts out there. Okay? So,
you're guiding us where you want us to go.
no ma'am,
She's making a presentation.
please be respectful.
No, it's not.
Please be respectful. If you want to know the process and how we got here, that's what we're doing, is giving you that information. So, in July, cut, cap, and balance was passed. It went to the Senate, and it was then tabled. No discussion, no debate. Then, after that, on July 29th, the House passed another piece of legislation to address the debt ceiling. It has still not had any action in the Senate. So on August 1st, the Budget Control Act came up for a vote. And as you know, the bill passed. Now, it cuts government spending by approximately $2.4 trillion in two separate ways. $917 billion today, another $1.2 to $1.5 trillion in 2012, caps future spending, and that's discretionary spending, and it advances a balanced budget amendment vote. There will be a vote on a balanced budget amendment in both chambers. Guarantees, because of the joint committee, that there will be more reductions. Here it is. You can't see that. Discretionary spending cuts relative to House-passed budget. Remember I told you the budget passed in April? I want to make sure that, you know, the white portion is the House-passed budget and what would have been reductions. This is the budget control that just passed August 1st. And this was the President's proposal had it passed. And I'm sure all of you know that the President's budget was voted on in the Senate. It received 0 votes yes. Current path. This was our current path. This is now the current path according to CBO. Not according to Sandy, but according to CBO. There's the timelines. A lot of you probably have questions about the timelines. You've heard about it. You also know that the Select Committee has been seated. So just kind of, and we have it if you need that information. So here's what's next. And we'll leave it on this one. Pass the balanced budget amendment. At least have a vote on it in both chambers, remember? We'll continue to reduce the spending because that's what every credit agency, rating agency is telling us. We've already been downgraded by one. We could possibly get downgraded by the others. Moody has already said they will. They have put us on a negative outlook and they want us to be serious about our debt and our deficits. And we need to continue or maintain our focus on jobs. Now why do I say that? Because in the House, we've passed several pieces of legislation. And I'm going to go through them because I want to make sure everybody knows what has passed the House and is sitting in the Senate for action. This is important.
When are you starting? What time are you starting what's passed the House and hasn't passed the Senate?
I'm starting
You're
from...
starting from when you got elected?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Because this starts, every Congress, everything goes away in the new Congress, it has to be refiled. Okay?
There's a lot of
So-
things that have been passed in the House that didn't go through the Senate too. Go ahead. Just want to hear what you have to say.
I'm going to focus on jobs bills, and I'm going to focus on appropriations bills. And why am I saying appropriations bills along with the jobs bills? Because most of you know, come September 30th, this year's budget expires, next year's budget on October 1st starts up. Remember, the budget bill didn't pass the Senate. We have been sending appropriations bills to the Senate to fund next year's government functions. If they don't pass by September 30th, we will be back at a situation of continuing resolutions or an omnibus bill. So, this is why this is important.